Hey everyone,
Hey,
and
everyone. How
welcome
you doing?
back to another Design Cut session. And I'm joined again by the wonderful business partner and creative director, Matt Slightam. I know
Thank
you
you
all know
very
Matt
much.
by this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tom Moss. I'm looking a bit shiny today. I need some powder.
To me for an hour. I know I'm horrible company, but
Generally what it is. Give me the sweats.
what are you going to be sharing today? It's something a bit different from past sessions.
It is something a bit different. I am going to be sharing how to transition from freelance to graphic designer to working full-time for someone, all the way through to freelance, all the way through to business owner. But all of this stuff is actionable if you are running a design business, basically. But I'll be taking you step by step through how I did it and what I found works.
I've seen firsthand some of Matt's career, obviously, and I heard about earlier phases. I think it's a really interesting career, and it's a path which many people aspire to go down, but you might be kind of partway down it so far. So I hope it's going to be really valuable for everyone tuning in. Matt, you put together quite a comprehensive presentation, so I won't waste any more time. I'll hand straight over to you.
Earlier on with my head on fire. It took 40 minutes away, with no one talking.
Awesome.
Okay, so as I've covered already, this is transitioning from graphic design and working full-time for someone else. We've probably all been there, all the way through to business owner and having your own team, staff members. You can see my lovely team here, my operations person, Rachel, on the right, and my two fantastic designers, Nina and Anna, on the left-hand side. And I also employed freelance as well when I was running my agency. So yeah, it was good times. It's good times. So just how did I do it, and how can you do it too? Well, a little bit more about my background first. I have worked full-time, freelance, and owned and run my own agency. The progression took me approximately 15 years to do so. Yes, I am that old. You can probably believe it looking at the grey hair. I have helped build brands from the ground up, from startups all the way over through, I'm proud to say, to earning tens of millions. So that's kind of my level that I got to in terms of building brands myself. And I've worked within the brands of companies who turn over literally billions. I worked with some oil companies that turned over billions. So it just goes to show that the level of documentation that I'll be running through all the way through to the end of this works with companies of that scale, as does the tips I will be giving. And I have employed a number of full-time staff and freelancers, so I'm used to the challenges and have overcome the challenges that did present. Okay, so what's the opportunity? Well, be your own boss and call all the shots. We all want to do that. It's exciting doing that, and it's really empowering. You know, if you get everything hooked up, when in my best years of freelance, I earned over $80,000 a year. The same in my best years of running a business as well. So you can earn really well if you get it hooked up. You can get awesome job satisfaction. And I think Tom can testament there is nothing, absolutely nothing like the satisfaction you get from running and growing your own business. For me, I get as much satisfaction out of that as I do from doing graphic design, which is why I love my job so much. And also you learn new skills. The skills that I learnt running an agency of this size, so four full-time and a couple of freelancers, were directly transferable to working in a much bigger business now on the board of a company which is much larger. So really good transferable skills. I was actually at the beginning of my design journey. I wasn't the lead designer. I was actually more of a junior designer when I started my own business. So I leveled up my design whilst doing work.
Well, hopefully it's interesting for everyone watching live to see where other community members are at. But I think we've got a real nice mix, and hopefully there's going to be something for everyone in today's presentation.
There should be. And the first one is, if you are working full-time already, you should look for opportunities to practice your business skills, because your business skills are what's going to later on allow you to freelance and allow you to run your own business and to employ people. So what do I mean by that? You should try to take meetings with clients yourself if you can, or build up to it. If you're working for an agency already, tell the people that you're working for, tell your boss that you have the aspirations to be a lead designer, that one day you want to be a creative director, so that you wanted to be involved in that meeting process. You know, again, initially you get a brief from a client, look to break it down, comment on it, communicate yourself. Again, you might not be able to do this directly with the client, but you can practice those skills early on and tell the people you're working for you have the aspiration to do so. Again, interact with other roles if possible, especially marketing departments. They are the people you are going to be working with them the most, and the people who will give you the most work. Get used to working with them if you can. Show your excitement for actually the actual business process to the people you work with, and they might get you involved and nurture you within that respect. Do work on your written skills, work on your email, work on the tone of voice that you use, be professional, come across professionally. Those are really, really important skills that you will be using later on. And right at the get-go, ask yourself an honest question. Do you enjoy using those skills? Because I can tell you now, if you don't enjoy doing those things, then you should probably stick with being a designer and do what you love. If you don't enjoy the business building aspect, the communication aspect, writing emails, the business aspects of it, then it's probably not right for you, because you will need that skill set to really flourish.
I'm so glad you mentioned that,
if you're running a design agency
such
later
a prevalent thing right now, especially on social media. You have to be an entrepreneur. You have to build your own business. It's the cool thing. It's the only way, and that's a complete fallacy. It's like, for a lot of people, they're infinitely happier working in-house somewhere, right?
Sure, and you could be a creative director of somebody else's agency, and it would be a fantastic job, and you could leave them with the stress of doing the really high-end stuff. That's absolutely fine. So you can build up that way and have a similar career path, and you can always start a business later on if you want to. But if you don't enjoy those skills, then it's something you're not going to get a lot out of running a business. So I would recommend, even whilst you're full-time, easing into some side hustle design work. Find some side hustle work, I've said here, to bring in additional revenue, build some contacts up, work up slowly to find that tipping point. So to a point where you think, I'm starting to get enough revenue that I feel comfortable that I can take the hit to step away from full-time work. How do you find that initial work? The first thing I would do is reach out to your friends' network, absolutely everything you know, and say, everyone I'm looking to do design work. Does anybody know anyone out there who's got a small business who needs design work, business cards, leaflets, stationery, website work, whatever, or even get them to ask friends of friends. Spread that net as wide as possible. One thing that you can look to do is very old school, but you can look to leaflet small businesses. I wouldn't say it works with larger businesses later on, but for small independent businesses, like cafes, that kind of thing, a leaflet through the door might actually win you some of their business. So what you can see over here on the right hand side is I started out by taking on any work I could get. This is the beginning of my design journey, right? So I took on business cards for personal trainers. I leafleted local cafes and fish and chip shops. I did anything it took to get work in, to just practice my design and print design, web design skills. Practice, build up as many clients as you possible, get your name out there. Fish and chip shop menu might not seem very salubrious, but it's good practice, and it's practice dealing with clients and billing and talking to people. All of that stuff you'll need.
Guess who some of my early clients were when I freelanced? I did local bars and restaurants, and I did a website for a personal trainer. I knew.
For sure. How you get your foot under the table. This is not a quick process, It took me a long time to build up my career. And what I've said is, from an early stage, build up a print relationship. If you've come out of, uni and you don't know a lot about commercial print and actually how it works and print processes and how to get stuff ready for print, then it's important to learn it. Find a local printer, find someone you can build a relationship with who won't just print something. There will be some communication where you can give them the artwork and say, is that okay? Can I send it to print? That's really important, because otherwise you'll get stuff printed and it'll come back and look awful and the client won't be happy. So right from the get-go, even when you're running a side hustle, behave like a business, be professional, get a business card, templates for quotes and invoices, all of this stuff you can find online. Think about some branding initially. You don't have to spend a huge amount of time on it, but make sure you look professional, because it helps you charge more for your services if you look professional. If you look like a business, it gives people assurance you can charge more for the same work. Do get an online folio. You could start with a small Squarespace website or something, use Instagram, etc. but get something so that you can show people your folio and the work that you've done so far. And right from the get-go, practice your marketing copy. You are going to need copywriting skills in your job to write email, to communicate. Initially, you might need to write the own copy on your own website, etc. So practice that marketing copy. Use a tool like Grammarly. I know many designers such as myself struggle with grammar and spelling and punctuation, all the rest of it. Grammarly can really help on that until you've had the practice, and find other people, your friends who might be working in marketing or something like that, who can give you advice on that front. So over time, whilst you're doing that, build up your folio. Even at this stage, you can start thinking about finding a niche or a sector to work within. Personally, my design work was very clean. It was very, very illustrative. I enjoyed doing corporate work, so I tried to get business clients and people, small corporate consulting businesses, etc. And I tried to get as much of that kind of work as possible because it's what I enjoy. But what is the kind of design work that you do that you've got a passion for? Where can you bring the highest quality and value, which we talk about in product design all the time as well? And think about sectors with deep pockets who are not exposed in a recession. Banking, IT, pharmaceutical, they are your friends. These are the sectors I used to work in, because otherwise there's lots of sectors that you can work in where in a recession the phone will just stop ringing. So do have that in mind. If you want to run a design agency later on, think about working in sectors where you can charge a lot of money, because you will need to charge a lot of money or a reasonable amount of money to get some kind of, business actually going, and some that are less exposed in recessions. And then, just as I said, build up examples in that sector. And you can see a business card and a letterhead I did here for
and the
a client.
deep pockets, that's a real tip, everyone. I see a lot of designers going after very bad sectors. It's not indie rock band music covers.
No.
I tried that when I was really young. I started trying to work with amateur bands. They don't have a lot of money, let me tell you.
And there's lots of people who don't, restaurants and stuff, they don't have a lot of money. They're fine to start off with. Local hairdressers, they don't have a lot of money. They're all fine to start off with to get your skills built up, but start to think about where you want to actually focus to earn some money. Right, grasp the opportunity, really, really important. As I put here, my first freelance work was actually with Daihatsu. I was working for a web design agency in the middle of a project for Daihatsu, and the web design agency went under. I lost my job. Everybody there lost their job. Literally overnight, I didn't have any job anymore. But I thought, well, do you know what? I've got the contact details of the person I'm dealing with at Daihatsu. So I picked up the phone, I phoned them up and said, I'm in the middle of a project for you guys with this company, which no longer exists. Would you like me to pay me to finish it off?
Yeah,
I know, absolutely.
How enterprising. Boom. That's great.
So it's just thinking, do you know what? I can actually do this. I'm actually going to go for it. And yeah, it completely changed the whole direction of probably the rest of my life. So, look for your own opportunity. It might be a leap of faith, but it's easier if you've already reduced the risk by getting some of that work, that side hustle work already. So great, that's it. You've done it. You've taken the leap of faith. What do you do now? How do I transition to being a business owner? Well, the first thing to realize is if you're freelance is you're already running a business. You've got a business. You are a business owner. It might be only you, but you're a business owner. I would recommend researching liability. The larger clients you're working with, if you haven't researched liability, if you haven't looked into incorporating your business or making a limited company, should, heaven forbid, anything bad happen and anybody comes after you financially, you are exposed. If you incorporate your business, if you make it limited, that puts the liability onto the business rather than you, so it protects you. Look at additional accounting and tax costs to help you decide when to do that, because there will be additional costs in doing it, and do get an accountant or at least some advice for an accountant. I would recommend, rather than spending the time doing your accounts, if you possibly can, pumping that time into finding more work and doing more work. It will be a lot less stressful. You'll be a lot less worried about making mistakes, and it'll actually be right.
You can make, and so we're not talking about a full-time hire. I know they're not cheap, but like for a couple of grand a year, think of how many hours you can redeploy, as Matt says, into actually getting more clients.
That's exactly it.
Who likes doing accounting outside of accountants?
Be doing that work yourself, it's no fun. It really isn't. So at this stage, you can start thinking about behaving like a larger business. Polish your branding more. Act like you're not a one-man band. And I've shown my website here, my first website for Sai & Shiner, which was my design business, brand-driven design solutions. But I'm already talking about, that I'm not a one-man band. I'm saying Sai & Shiner Limited are based in Surrey. We've been operating for this many years, affording this, and this. Our services include. I'm talking like I'm an actual business. So when people hit the website, they get credibility. They get reassurance that they're not dealing with a one-man band, because most businesses don't want to, because they'll feel exposed. They'll think, what if you get ill? What if you go on holiday? What happens next? So you don't have to lie to anyone, but don't give anyone the impression that you are a one-man band, would be my recommendation. How do you back that up? If a client says to you, well, what's the setup in your business? Just say, I employ other freelancers. Say it's me, but I employ other freelancers, which probably won't be a lie at some point soon, for backup. And that will give them some reassurance. I've said here, try to go to meetings with someone else's backup. Even if that's someone you go with is a freelancer you work with, it's really good. They can sit there and not say very much. That's fine. It will be far more credible if two of you turn up to go to the meeting, and you'll be more likely to win the work. And do think about creating higher level documentation at this point, getting procedures in place. It helps you charge more money. You might start asking, setting up audience profiling documents, brand profiling documents, so that when you get a new client on board, you can collect all that data and you seem far more professional, and it helps you. Well, you really need it anyway, because you need to know about the audience of the brand to actually do anything. And I said here, don't get stuck in the brand trap. Tom, you posted a good post saying, do not push all of your time into branding and forget to do the work. Spend a good amount of time polishing your brand, but don't use it as an excuse. If you're scared for going out and getting the work, realize it's easy to polish and polish and polish and never actually get any work. You are going to have to get out there and find the work, really. That's the important thing. Here's just a simple brand code template I used to send out to clients at that stage in my career, which was quite early on, where I was asking for, their product benefit, the positioning, styling, mission, vision, values, etc., etc. So I could start getting more of an idea of their company. I did a similar thing for the audience as well, just so that I could get an idea of that before I did any work for them, because it's not enough to get a brief. You need to know someone's company inside out and their audience.
Something I'm loving here is the
business.
Evolution, and I always find it fascinating. I've seen a few friends do this, where they kind of do a go back in time and show early work and early documentation, and I've seen where this is going to go. I've seen your later documentation, and it's so much more polished than this. So just seeing this journey is like really fascinating, actually, and hopefully reassuring for everyone watching live. It's great, but I want everyone who watches along to see this evolution and realize you don't have to get it polished and perfect from day one. You have to just start, right?
You just have to start. I think most of running a business is just having the courage and having the get up and go to just actually do it and find the clients, because doing the work is easy, really. It's actually getting the work in which is trickier, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Do think about employing other freelancers. Get used to paying out more than one salary and how that's done. Make use of connections. You might employ them later on, full-time, or carry on with freelancers, because it's great to have them on the books as well. Get used to clients offering complimentary services. So this is actually a photo here taken by David Hampton, who's a very good friend of mine, who's a photographer. And I used to not only resell his photography services, but I used to actually art direct his photo shoots with my corporate clients. So he took all the money for the photography. I took the money for the art direction. It was a really, really good synergy. And it was an extra feather to my bow. It meant my corporate clients knew that I did photography as well, and they didn't have to reach out to someone else for that. So yeah, as I said, it increases the likelihood of the client calling you rather than someone else, and that's really important. And again, it lets you charge more money because you're behaving like a business. You are more credible. You're not thinking, oh, they're just a one-man band.
If I could chime in very quickly on that last point, Matt, I love the example you gave of working with Dave on photography. And I remember when I used to watch you work, I thought, man, how nice is it to have beautiful professional photography woven into a project instead of using the poor quality photos they might have themselves or generic stock photography. They'd get a custom photo shoot.
For sure. Part of all the brand services, every time I did branding for a client, I offered a brand library to them. I said, we will either go off to, well, at the time, it was iStock and Getty. Now you could just use Unsplash. And we will spend the time to build a brand library, which has a thread through it, like professionally select the images, which makes a massive difference. Or you can employ our photographer at like a day and a half of his time to go and do a shoot and have bespoke images. It's a really great way to get more revenue and make sure you've got the really awesome collateral you need to make your design work shine. Because you can use some rubbishy image that they selected.
I love the cross-pollination as well you touched on. This is what contractors do, right? You get a builder in and then they recommend their mate who's a plumber, and the plumber, if their client needs a builder, and vice versa. And for people who are looking to get more work in, simply having a network of 2, 3, 4 individuals where you're all feeding each other work all the time, like say, it adds more services to your arsenal, and it has that network of referrals.
A few slides. I can't remember if it's the next one. I've got the ultimate evolution of actually doing that. So, this is the most difficult point here. Find work. People often gloss over this or don't even mention it when they're talking about building up a business, because there's no easy way to say it's really, really hard. Use a website, use social, use LinkedIn. You can go to local business meetings and network there. You might find people who are willing to give you work. It didn't work that well for me, but I did make some connections. Really good one is contact local businesses who might resell your services. Look for small marketing agencies, look for photographers, look for copywriters, anyone who has a synergy with design, who's running their own small business, contact them. I'm a local designer. Would you like to resell my services? I can resell your services. Get something going on there. It'll be a lot easier to talk to them. There's a much lower barrier of entry than phoning up a business and saying, hey, I'm a designer, I want to do work for you. That's a really tough thing to do. Do realize that the best marketing is actually word of mouth. So if you've done everything I've said from the beginning of this presentation, if you have over-delivered massively, if you've been lovely to all of your clients, if you've bent over backwards to be great to them, if you treated them like a friend rather than a business relationship, which is really important, they will advertise your services for you and they will help you build your business. It won't be the quickest way to do it, but it will be one of the best ways to do it. What I've said here is, should I offer end-to-end services? Now, this is really interesting. End-to-end services is basically the complete solution. So someone could come to my agency and we would say, no worries, we will do your photography, we'll do your brand design, we'll do your print design, we'll do your web design, we can sort out your hosting, we can update your website. Should you do that? There's two ways to do it. You can either niche down and say, look, I just do logo design, which is fine, and you can do that. But for me, I found what always worked was offering a more end-to-end service solution, because I wanted to build a larger agency. And when the client had some work, I always wanted them to pick up the phone and call me. So if it was design related, if it was creative related, I didn't want them to have to go to another agency, because every time they do that, it's an opportunity for that agency to steal the client off you, which is not good. So I wanted to offer end-to-end services which would mitigate that and make sure they picked up the phone to me, which is why, whilst I did niche in a sector, I didn't niche down in the particular type of work that I did or that we offered. But it is your choice. There's more than one way to do that. Do build a wide client base if you can to de-risk. Get as many clients as possible. You don't want one massive client who gives you all your money. If that client goes under, you go under. Try and de-risk. So even if you've got one client who's giving you loads of work, that's actually some alarm bells should be ringing. You should be trying to find more, or having 3 or 4 clients to give you the similar amount of money, because it will be safer. I've said here, think unconventionally, find unique angles. One way that I used to get into businesses was by doing PowerPoint templates and Word templates. Who wants to do that work, right? That's the most boring, rubbishy work in the universe. But you know what? That got me in more corporate businesses than pretty much anything else, because that's the kind of stuff you need when you're in like an IT agency or a business in London. You're like, oh well, you need to do presentations that are slick, you need a template for that, you need Word templates because that's a real pain to do. So I actually offered that service and it made a big difference to my work. Just to show the wide variety of work we did, there was everything from brand work up the top left, brand guidelines, stationery, corporates, finance documents, brochures, website work, We did stands, exhibition stands, which was great fun. That's actually one of my bits of design work there, which was really funky and good fun to do. We did presentations.
Packaging.
Oh God, blimey, I'm getting ahead of myself. Packaging, thanks Tom, and obviously we offered photography, and that's not everything that we did as well, because obviously we offered through another partner hosting, and through a freelance we offered to do SEO and update websites as well. So the ultimate evolution of what Tom was saying in terms of finding that synergy to work with freelancers is actually to align your brand to find work with somebody else's brand. Now, I had an opportunity because a friend of mine runs a big IT company called Chrome. They've got big clients like Bupa and Network Rail and AXA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there was already a synergy where they were offering my design services and I was offering their IT services. So for a little while, I actually rebranded my business to be part of their business. That gave me access to much larger clients instantly. It gave me a much larger client base instantly, which made more work. And it was a really, really great springboard to help build the business up to the next level. So that's kind of the ultimate evolution of doing that. The business was still mine. It was still my business, but I branded it up to look like part of their business. So I still retained ownership. So there were all the benefits basically, but none of the you lost none of the control, which was really great.
Offer that as an arm of their service.
Exactly, right? Yeah, they got to offer web design and design services, which is something their clients wanted. And again, for the same reason, they didn't want their clients to phone someone else. They wanted their clients to phone them up, whatever they did, because every time your client phones someone else, it's an opportunity to lose business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do for a little while. So you can see here's the services and overview documentation I put together at the time. And the thing to note here was that not only does that mean I could put in testimonials from my mid-level business clients who might have turned the turnover in like hundreds of thousands or lower millions. It meant I could use testimonials as well from Bupa, from AXA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because I'm actually talking about the whole group, the whole Chrome group. So it allows me to tap into a lot more brand credibility, take on some of that equity, that brand equity, and actually helps me win larger clients to springboard my agency up to the next level. It's important to become an authority figure. Don't just sell your services, share your knowledge. And this is the same for any designer, whether you're on Instagram or whatever. You're not just showing off your services and your design. It's important to share knowledge. Help your clients, educate them. And that actually helps you with quotes, because if you demystify all the work that goes into a bit of work like search engine optimization, for instance, the client's actually less likely to do it, and they're more likely to not quibble for paying you for the service, because they will see the amount of work that goes into it. You can say, look, here's how you do it if you want to do it, or we can do it for you. The chances are they'll look at it and go, whoa, that's a lot of work. You do it for me. And then they won't quibble about paying so much because they know the ins and outs of it. It also makes marketing departments look good. If you can educate the people that you work with, if you can make them look good in the eyes of their bosses, the directors, whoever, they will carry you. They will want to phone you up. They won't want to lose you. They'll move from one company to another company. They'll phone you up and say, hey, can you come and work for me at this company? Or maybe they'll leave that company and then you phone that company up and say, hey, that marketing person's left. Can I still be your design agency? And you'll get the business from there as well. So you'll double the business. So there's opportunities there for sharing knowledge. And this is more of that sharing knowledge, really, which is audience profiling documents and brand documents that we used to send out. Again, it's sharing knowledge, it's educating them about the audience, about the brand, about how this should actually be done, about all the background that goes into doing design work. It's not just about making pretty design work, it's about really targeting it around an audience. What's the audience you've got now? What's the audience you're trying to win in the future? Who are your competitors, etc.? It's showing the amount of work put into your design work helps you charge more for the same services. And it also helps you charge for other services, because once you've leveled up, you can charge for this as a service as well. Okay, quotes and billing. Okay, the really interesting stuff now. Oh, exactly, but it's really important, right? I've said here, really important one. Charge as much as you possibly can for your services and do not feel bad about it. Don't let anyone guilt trip you. When they say, oh, that's a lot of money, you should be able to justify it. If you've already shown them the processes that you go through, you can say, well, look, you've seen all the processes that I go through. I give you a really in-depth service. If you're not interested in that kind of service, by all means, do work with another designer. But if you'd like to work with me, I will go the extra mile to give you a really professional service. And I've said here, higher charges give a perception of higher quality. If you go in with low charges, someone will expect a low quality service. If you go in with higher charges, you instantly give the perception that you will be giving a high quality service. Increase your charges annually. It's a very easy thing to do. Every January or so, just reach out and say, look, expenses have gone up every year, and to cover this, we're putting our charges up slightly, and just increase your hourly rate a little bit and edge that up and up and up. And I always used to put it up a little bit more than inflation so that every year I earned a bit more money. And really, I never got any.
I just did a whole podcast on that one
really
topic, Matt, and so many designers. There's someone in my community that hadn't raised their price in 5 years. And it's like, I mean, you're basically, you're essentially earning 10% less over that period because of depreciation and inflation.
So exactly. I think at the time, maybe I was charging, initially I maybe charged £25 an hour, then it was £30 an hour, then it was £37. It was like, obviously this is pounds, not dollars for the American audience. But so I increased it by a substantial amount, not a huge amount, but a good chunk every year. And you got the occasional person give a jokey quibble, but if you provide a fantastic service over the course of that year, you won't lose those clients, and they'll have forgotten about it in a month or two's time. And you need to do it. You need to level up how much money is coming in, because you need a buffer of money for when you want to start employing other people. So do provide services and overdue documentation. If we could flip back, that's this stuff here. Do provide that because it helps you sell your business. So when someone phones you up and says, hey guys, I'm looking for some website design, will you design a website for me? Rather than saying, yeah, sure, tell me all about it. Let's have an hour conversation. You tell them and you go through it and this and that. And then you put a big long quote documentation together and you professionally email that over. And then they say, I can't afford it. And that happens so much. Don't waste all that time. Rather than that, show ballpark charges for all of your services in a really nice services and overview documentation, which can also have testimonials and things in there, and an overview of your company and your values and the quality that you give and how different you are. Not only does it help you win the work, but it means that you're far less likely to get those tire kickers who come and kick your car's tires and then say they don't want to buy it. You can get rid of those people straight away with one email. You can say, no problem at all. If you're interested in my services, we'll send through our overview documentation. Please do have a look at it. If you're still interested in your services, we'll go on to talk about your project in more detail. You tier the services not to lose business who can't afford the most comprehensive services. For instance, not everybody might be able to afford an all singing, all dancing, content management system driven website built from the ground up. But some companies, smaller companies, will be able to afford a template website that you buy in and you style up for them. That's a good example of tiering the services. So people don't turn around to you and say, I can't afford this, will you do it for less money? Because your response is, well, I can't do that for less money, but I can give you this service, which is right for a business at your size. And as your business grows, we can then provide the next level of service and the next level of service. Not only does that tie them in to that process and make them feel like you're being accommodating, it means you never have to have that conversation about reducing your prices.
Yellow highlight,
which is really, really important.
Underline that 5 times for everyone watching. So do not reduce your prices. So don't say, I will do this job for less money, but you're effectively saying, I will do a smaller job. I will do less work for less money.
Exactly. They will not respect you. As soon as you've done that, they will never respect you ever again, and they will try and do it on every single job. And not only that, if they are the kind of client who does that, you probably don't need them and you should find other clients. The best clients are the ones who appreciate what you do and will just pay for it. And the best clients are the ones where they phone you up and they ask for work and they trust you so much that you just do the work and bill them. And we certainly had some clients like that, which was absolutely fantastic. In that documentation, do demystify and break down the costings. Go into details about what each of your services entails. Because if you really break it down and say, it's not just logo design, we will do this, and this as part of it, it helps, give some justification for the costing and demystify that, and do call out the benefits as well. If you're offering someone an audience profiling document, give them the benefits of doing that to their business. They'll appreciate it. Ask for a PO is the final one. Always ask for a PO, especially when working with larger businesses. A PO is a purchase order, obviously, for anyone who's worked with in business. It's something accounts departments want when it comes to you sending them the invoice. You get a purchase order for the work you're about to do. Then when you finish the work and got sign off, you send the purchase order and your invoice to the accounts department and then say, there's the PO for the work. And then they don't have to then reach out to get justification or approval for paying the invoice.
Really gold tip. I think this is really value packed, to say the least. There's just tip after tip after tip. So it's very action orientated, which I love, Matt.
I was still adding points about half an hour ago because I was like, oh, I forgot that. Oh, there's so much. There's so much you could add in here. Here is some of that broken down documentation. This is getting a lot slicker now because this from Core, which was the final iteration of this is my proper design agency where I was working with big brands. And you see I'm breaking down my logo and brand toolkit into research, design, application. And then I'm saying, look, or you can just have logo design, you can have a brand guidelines document, a brand image library. And over on the right-hand side here, what I was talking about, sort of the website design, you can have an introductory website at around about 6K, which is perfectly fine for small businesses. You can have an intermediate website around about 14,000, or you can have a fully bespoke website, all the bells, all the whistles, all the research, bespoke coding for upwards of 30,000. And then really the sky's the limit on that. You can get paid a lot for website projects. I would recommend it.
$45,000 and upwards, I think.
Exactly. So I would recommend, if you're thinking about building a business, if you don't do web design, it can be quite lucrative. So it's a good avenue to go down. And really, if you're thinking about building a design business eventually, you probably want to offer print and web design services, ideally, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So here's some more billing strategies which will help you out. Think about payment schedules and staged payments. Rather than saying, look, boom, there's like a 30,000K project. Here's the invoice at the end of the project. Well, that's not good for you or the client because it leaves you both exposed. Rather than doing that, think about either scheduling payments, say monthly, so at the end of the month you bill for it, or better still, the way we used to do it was staging the payments. So we would say, look, if say it's on a website again, there's initial like sort of background phase where if you can pay for that, and then there's an initial wireframing and design stage. They pay for that at the end of that after sign off. Then there's initial design phase, sign it off, pay for it. And then there's a build phase, sign it off, pay for it. And then maybe there's a phase of testing for the client afterwards to give them the assurance that it's going to work.
That's super quick. That is
where the final payment goes.
That's really interesting. I know Mike always did it that way, and I hadn't really heard anyone else in my network do it that way, and I didn't know you did it that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's an initial payment as well, which is part of this. For larger projects of like 30, 40K, we'd ask for an initial payment, which ties the client in and also says, look, we are going to be giving you quite a bit of work initially. We're not going to ask for the money for all of that, but we will ask you for an initial payment to cover some of it.
Watching this do is they say, give me 50% up front and then give me the other 50% at the end. And what I kind of heard, which I guess is why you did it this way, is if the client pays you 50% at the start, they feel unbalanced and like, well, I've given all this money, but I've got nothing to show for it. And then if you get the 50% at the end, you've done 100% of the work, but you've only got 50% of the money, so you feel unbalanced.
It doesn't work for either of you. And something really, really important is, as a designer, you have to realize how businesses work, how marketing departments work. How do they work? They work to a budget. They'll have a monthly budget, or they'll have a quarterly budget, and then they'll have a yearly budget. They won't want to pay out a massive lump sum in one part, in 1 month or 1 quarter because of cash flow. They want to actually spread those payments. And what it means is that you will lose work. You might turn around to someone and say it's a £40,000 project and think, well, I can't do it because I can't pay for it with my cash flow. But if you spread it out, all of a sudden they can do it. And not only that, But often marketing departments want to get the work done, but they can't get it rubber stamped by management. If you do it this way, because the invoices are smaller and the quotes are smaller, they can. So it's beneficial for you and it's beneficial for marketing departments because they can get in work underneath the radar, because often they want to get that work done so that they can do better.
I know we can't hear everyone watching, but if we could hear you, I would expect to hear lots of furious scribbling of notes, everyone, because this is gold. So yeah, great stuff.
It'll all be in the Learning Hub, won't it? So, and as I said here, it gives the clients the reassurance on bigger projects, and it gives you reassurance as well. Because as you go, you've done your initial designs, you get them signed off and paid for. So you know, and they know it's going in the correct direction. You know, so at every stage, you both get that reassurance. There's no big surprise at the end of the project where the client goes, oh, that's not quite what I was expecting. And you're like, oh, uh-oh, that never happens. It never happens because you've broken it down. You can do it on smaller projects as well. Do break it down into smaller steps so there's no big surprise for the client, and do call out to the client that that is how you work.
Why
because
wouldn't
it gives them the assurance
like
they'll be more likely to give you the work.
Noted.
A logo design project, you could do it. Anything, you know. I mean, it might get a bit ridiculous if you're not getting paid much for it, but you know, about it, it de-risks you because it means you're getting that constant revenue stream. And when you're running a business, as Tom and I know, you need constant revenue. You don't want it to be going up and down and up and down. You want to think every month I am going to earn this much money for the next year, because it helps you plan the business and your hires. Also think about retainers. If there are businesses who are giving you, and you are noticing them giving you, say, like 3 or 4 days of work a month, turn around to them and say, well, look, do you know what I mean? What happens sometimes is you contact us and you can't always contact us because we're busy with other work. Why don't you put us on a retainer for a proportion of all of that work? The benefit for you is it will guarantee that we'll always pick up the phone. We'll guarantee that we'll always be there to do the work for you. And the benefit for you is that you start to get these constant revenue streams, which help you plan monthly budgets for your own business.
Matt, but like some of these are so important. I feel like I have to for people, because I hear this all the time. People are like, I get why I would want a retainer, but how do I ask for one? And I think, yeah, you just worded it perfectly. It's not pay me every month because that's good for me. It's because we might be full otherwise, and we want to make sure we reserve time for you.
What I should also say is you never say to someone, yeah, no problem, I'll jump on that. You always say, I'll see if I can book it in.
Yeah.
No matter how busy you are, if you're super busy, if you're super quiet, you always say, no worries at all, we'll check our schedule and we'll book the work in, because that always gives the impression that you're busy. Yeah, you don't want to go, oh, I'll phone them up. Oh,
I'll check my schedule. I'm very busy. No, I'm kidding.
Shall I phone them first? Will get respect in business. You have got to be strong, because otherwise you will not get the respect you need to run the business, and you will not get the work. Do think about project management as well. Put in place some project management to track your project process for each individual project, and also share that project management with your clients to help projects run smoothly. So there's a tool here that you can use, Trello. I'd recommend that as a smaller agency. You can think about something more heavy hitting like Monday later on, but Trello is a really great way to set up boards, and you can start with your project on the far left-hand side in a to-do column, and then you can move it into in progress, or you could move it into waiting for something for the client, all the way through to this project needs to be invoiced for, etc. So you're starting to get a workflow. You can just look at your Trello board and know where all the work is and when you're likely to get paid for things. Otherwise, do remember, time is money. Anything you can do to optimize your business to spend less time is more time that you can spend doing the work to earn more money. And also, if you set up boards, as you can see for Gresham Computing, which is one of our old clients here, we set up a board for them and we shared it with their marketing department, which had 2 benefits. One, they always knew where the projects were, and 2, we could actually ask them for what we needed on that board and call it out, because you don't want to be waiting for stuff from clients, which you often are with marketing departments, unfortunately. You want to be calling it out, tagging them up and saying, I need this, I need that, and it involves them. It kind of links you together. If you can get linked into somebody else's marketing department really, really coherently, it makes you indispensable, which is what you want to be as a business. Okay. Whew. Right, that's a lot of tips for how to do freelance, which, let's face it, is running a business once you've got freelancers on board. But how do I then step it up to the next level? Oh, I've got 10 minutes. I'm going to have to fly through it. Think about the costs. Talk to an accountant about tax. Look at the revenue and outgoings. Project forward for the best and the worst case scenarios. That's really, really important. You want to look at your budget and try and work out in the future when you'll be able to afford to employ people, and plan an exit strategy. I hate to say this, but you could well lose staff in the future. You could lose all your staff and go back to just being yourself, but plan the strategy for doing that and realize that it happens in an agency, and then you will just have to build it up again and get those plans in place for building it up again. Do hire carefully. Remember that your business is your staff. Make sure they're kind, make sure they're lovely, make sure they're hardworking. Your staff is your business. You spend 24/7 for these people, so it's really important that they're really, really great. Make sure that they are better than you. If you're hiring a web designer, they're better than you at web design. If you're hiring a brand design, they've got to be better than you. Everybody in your business has got to be better at their individual skill set than you are. Be inclusive, get them excited and invested in your brand. Be open and honest about how well your business is doing, about your clients, about where you are. They will appreciate you for it. And if you get them invested in your brand, they are more likely to work hard for you. Nurture and care for them like a family. So important. They're people, it's not just about running a business. They're your family. Do take care of them. Do reach out and say, what are your aspirations in the future? How can I get you there? They will appreciate you for it and they will work harder. Always go with your gut in interviews. Always go with your gut. And when you've hired someone, always go with your gut. Because generally, if someone comes in on an interview and you've got any alarm signs, walk away. The most important thing you've got to do is just hire nice people that are good at their work. Or if they start working for you and you're thinking, oh, this probably isn't right, sadly, do let them go. It doesn't take much to knock a business completely off kilter, especially with a small business. It can take just one person who isn't running to the optimum or who's not very nice, etc., and it can drag the whole business down. Be careful. On that note, do study employment law, find out how that works and how to cover yourself. You are running a business, and do strategize. For instance, to build up for me, there was just me. Then I got a buffer of money to make sure that I could employ someone else. And I took a big cut in my salary. So I employed someone to do my operations, and my marketing was my first step to growing my business, not getting another designer. So I took a big cut in salary to pay them. Then they did a load of operations work to help us get to the next stage, and some marketing to get enough work in. So for a while, I was doing way too much work. I was doing twice the amount of work that I normally did in order to build it up until we hired another designer. Strategize. How is that going to work for every stage of the process? Optimize your operations. Look at every part of the business to make it run smoothly. Get on top of everything. Be organized. Be efficient. Everything from invoicing to billing, to how things work around the office. Again, it's important that you've got no pulls, that everything is really, really optimized. Again, you can do that kind of thing with Trello boards. Polish your brand and literature. Coming across big brand helps you target larger brands. It's good to look the part. You just need to look at some big agencies online and it's really, really obvious that you've got to look the part. Creating a highly polished brand, literature, web presence, it helps you sell to senior management of large businesses. Be aware that you're not just selling to the marketing person you're having a meeting with. They are going to go away and they're going to get this rubber stamped by senior management. And the first thing that they'll show senior management is your literature, is your quotes, is your website. If they don't look absolutely awesome, if you don't look the part, it doesn't matter how good the meeting was with the marketing person, you won't get the business. And on that note, here is some of the literature that I put together for Core, which was working much more at the high end of things with businesses in the tens of millions or even in some cases the billions of turnover. The website, which was very big brand, very agency, it's talking big brand language. It's talking about creativity, strategic, targeted. It's talking about the right language, stationery, etc. Okay, really getting close now, so it's good timing. Social proof and language. Reassure your clients with social proof. For any design you're doing, whatever industry, it's all about social proof. Call out the brands that you work with, but don't just call them out and say, I work with this brand. Steal their credibility. You're saying, I work with this client, and their big client wins are this client, and this client. So you can take the equity there and spread the net and then take their equity. If your client works with, a really big pharmaceutical company, try and call it out. You have to do it subtly and be careful, but you can at least do it in conversation often, but you need to find out if you can first. Talk about things like revenue increases and ROI and client wins, as I'm saying. So you can actually say, look, here's a client that I've worked with, and over the last year, their business has grown by 40% since we started doing their branding. It gets credibility instantly, because what people want to see is return on investment. If they're paying you for branding work, how will I get the return on the investment? In order to prove you can get return on the investment, you have to say, here's a client that we've been working with for this long, and this is what's happened to them. Their turnover has increased by 40%. They've got 4 or 5 really big new client wins since we've started working for them. You're proving that what you do actually works. And do speak the language of business, strategic, targeted, ROI, etc., etc., etc. This is things that are talked about in business meetings all the time. Learn that language. You need to speak the same language as marketing departments and big business if you want to work with them. Remember, perception is reality. You don't necessarily have to have the artwork for something to do it, or the remit to do it. For instance, the exhibition stand work here and the folder were made up for clients we already had. We reached out and said, do you mind us doing some concept artwork for you, because we want to do some concept art for our website? They said yes, we did it. And after we'd done that, we reached out to them and said, right, great, now do you want us to do the proper artwork for you? So not only can you generate more for your folio, but you can generate more business. Even be creative with your team photo shoot. We had quite a dry corporate office, but we didn't get our team photo shoot done there. We went to a really creative space to get it shot because we wanted people to buy into our brand. Project confidence, knowledge, creativity. It gives assurance. Do get help. Reach out to others for help and advice. Research and listen to people who have been there and done it. Be very, very careful about who you listen to. There's so many people pumping out this stuff on Instagram and other channels who haven't done it. All they're doing is regurgitating. Make sure, which is why I talked about what I'd done at the beginning, they've actually been there and done it and they know it works. Take the right advice. You can find me on Instagram at Matt Slightam. I mainly nowadays focus on product design, but I'm happy to help designers talk about this.
If you found this session a goldmine, his Instagram is super valuable as well.
Thank you, Tom. Do look at the Learning Hub at Design Cuts, because it's all there. All this content from all these sessions goes there and is totally free. And there's loads of great stuff there. Do follow Mike Jander at More Jander, because he specializes in this kind of thing. Go search him out on Instagram, and do listen to the Biz Buds podcast with Mike Jander and the lovely Tom Ross here. Of content they give all the time, which tells you how to grow a design business. And Mike's been there as well. Mike's done it. Tom's been there. Tom's done it.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, I would say, like, this is my honest opinion. There's a lot of people teaching this stuff. Mike and Matt are the two people I respect most in this space, and not just because they've done it and they've done it really well, and there's a lot of similarities in how they've done it, but because they both lead with kindness and integrity and client care, much more so than some other people. And so, yeah, I align on a very personal level with both of your approaches.
I think when your clients start inviting you to, when you're invited to lots of Christmas parties, you know you've had a good year. Put it that way. When you're invited to all the clients' business parties, you know you've got there. You're their friend, and that's what it's all about. Final takeaways: it is hard work running a business. Go into this with your eyes open. It is like raising a child. I know I've got children as well. It's the only thing I can equate it to. It's all consuming. It takes up all your time, every second of the day if it possibly could. But it's so rewarding, so rewarding. So there's a real yin and yang there. Do realize that you might find it harder to earn as much as the boss of your company than you did freelance. some years it cost me a load of money to run my business because I had to prop it up because the economy was struggling, or because we were struggling, or hadn't quite made the right business decisions that year. Do realize that. Remember, recessions hit design businesses really hard. Underlined, yellow marker over that. Have contingent in place, have a buffer of money in place, have that exit strategy in place in case your business has to contract, so that you can grow it again afterwards, so you don't lose your business. Mitigate that with the clients that you have and your services. Look for those consistent revenue streams, those retainers I was talking about, even getting into, web, or side selling web hosting. There's lots of different things you can do to spread the net on that. But do remember that nothing is quite as rewarding as running your own business. If you are into brand building, if you're into business development, the ultimate thing to do is actually run your own business.
What an incredible session. Well, thank you, Matt, first of all. So let's give it up for Matt. That was amazing. Hand on heart, one of the most just value-packed back-to-back tips sessions we've ever had. Let's say a big thank you to Matt for all of his time and expertise today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks ever so much for coming. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Tom. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks so much. Bye, everyone. Bye.